All right. Thanks for joining me for another Firm Foundation podcast, right here from Foundations for Living, located in Waupaca, Wisconsin. And I want to speak to you this morning, this week. And I realize that we are a little late with it this week. That was due in part to a medical procedure I had done that you get done when you hit a certain age. Let's just leave it at that. But everything turned out well. And so we had to delay this one just a little bit so that I could be a part of that and recover from it as well. So next week, we're going to be back to our regular schedule on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. And so join us each week right here. And we're going to talk about all things pertaining to Foundations for Living, homelessness, poverty, centers like this that are all over the United States, all over the world, really. And what you can learn from it, what you can do to be a part of it, what we can give you, teach you, all of those things. And so if you're joining me this morning, you can certainly, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, feel free to comment. Let me know where you're from. And if you have any questions or comments that you want me to address, I will certainly do that. Just simply by putting it up on the screen. So if you comment, I will put that right on the screen so that everybody can see it and I can talk about it. So the background, it has changed a little bit, and thanks in part to a friend of mine that owns Old Country Store Antiques right here in actually Waiwega, which is a neighboring city of Waupaca. Are you sensing an Indian name theme? It's probably, it's very true, as with most of the cities in Wisconsin. But these street signs really encapsulate who we are and what we do, and for us as a center and for everyone as individuals. Certainly, all of us are under construction. So that's why the road construction sign is up, because at some point or another, we are under construction, and we realize that there is only, let me go this way, one way in order to get it right, and that is to follow Christ. And then we realize also that there is only one road that leads to salvation. And so that's why the signs are up. I like old things. I like antique things. And certainly this guy was able to get them for me. Now, one of the main questions, and I understand, is it illegal to have street signs? No. Okay. Because there is a point where they become decommissioned or they're old signs and the city just throws them out or gets rid of them. And so this guy's got a whole bunch of signs that he had and was willing to part with a few for the purpose of this podcast. So there you go. For those of you that are watching and saying, I thought I saw him on Highway 10 taking those signs. That really isn't the case at all. So today I want to talk specifically about volunteers. Okay. Because if you're a part of a organization like this, and we work in collaboration with Salvation Army. So whether you're a part of an organization like Foundations for Living or Salvation Army, whatever the case may be, it rises and falls on volunteers. And again, if you're watching this morning, please feel free to comment. You can post your comments right on Facebook or YouTube. I will put them up on the screen and I will address it. Or if you want to say a hi and where you're from, that would be cool too. So volunteerism, a very, very important aspect of any center like this, be it Salvation Army, Red Cross, Foundations for Living, Mission of Hope House, Rescue Mission. If you're from the Milwaukee area, you're very familiar with them. I was a part of an organization in Milwaukee called the Milwaukee Outreach Center. It was 27th and national, I believe. I've been away from Milwaukee for about 18 years, so you got to forgive me I'm getting a little cloudy on the details there. And quite honestly, in churches too, if you attend a church, honestly, what a church does rises and falls on volunteerism as well. There's the bigger churches that can have staff and supporting staff, but even they need volunteers to make their program, their ministry, whether it's kids, youth, adults, senior citizens, whatever it is, they need helpers to do that. And so that's why I'm hanging out on this topic this morning, so that you can get a little grasp on who we are, what we do, and how you can get involved. Now, if you're a volunteer or have volunteered at the center, you're going here at Foundations for Living, you're going to want to stop by at noon. Every other week, we appreciate our volunteers, and we show that by providing a lunch. Today, we're going to be grilling out brats and hot dogs. We have baked beans cooking. We have chips. It's just going to be a awesome time at noon to enjoy some great food on the grill and to also just enjoy some fellowship with each other for a little bit. Because places like this that need volunteers, we can never express the gratitude enough for everything that people do. So at Foundations for Living, there's 3 facets of this place. Okay. If you walk in the front door, you're going to probably meet Val. Okay. We've talked about this before, but let me recap a little bit. You're going to probably meet Val. Val is our office manager. She works in the lobby, also known as our crisis center. Someone's house burnt down. Their job went south. They just don't have any streams of income. Kids need something. People need hygiene products or household supplies. They come in the front door. They're going to be met by Val, probably Jill as well, who is our program director and case manager. And we find out what you need and what you're up to. Typically, Val will then hear what your needs are, hear what the person's needs are, go to the back room and start grabbing things, and everything's organized. Everything's where it should be. And why is that? Volunteers. Okay. There are people that come in. There's the Jim Ratajczaks. There's the Julie Spriggs. There's multiple people that come in that help organize everything, because when a church does a drive for us or an individual and drops everything off, we're grateful, we're thankful, but it sits on the table until somebody can put it away. Sometimes it falls on the staff to do that, but usually it's the volunteers that make that happen. So that's area number 1 of Foundations for Living. The second aspect of it is our warming shelter. That's the middle of the building. This is open November 1st through April 30th. And it took me a while to get those dates down. I just started in October, so that took a little while for it to sink in. But that is a program here that absolutely rises and falls on volunteers, because we need people that are intake hosts, basically just welcome people in, ask them how their day was, offer them food. If they're new, walk them through the process, get them fresh clothes and toiletries and all those things. And then there's the evening chaperone. These are the people that spend the night here on any given night through the late fall and winter and early spring. These are the people that stay here overnight from 9 p.m. until 7 a.m. just to make sure everybody's needs are met and there isn't any trouble being caused. So that's a huge aspect of it. And along with that, there's a thing called the meal train, because when folks come in for our warming shelter, they're greeted with a warm meal. These are volunteers that sign up through our website, which is on the screen right now. And these are people that make meals. They sign up on a schedule, get going, and Jill oversees it, and it goes. And last year was really good. We had everything from baked chicken to authentic lasagna made by a good Italian friend of mine and his awesome wife. That dish never disappoints, by the way. And so there's that aspect of it. Then in the back of the building, if you ever show up, and we have a new parking lot, by the way, stop over and see it. We have the thrift store, and our thrift store manager, we're fortunate and blessed to have a staff person, paid staff person overseeing it. Her name's Jane Thompson. And Jane, though, cannot do it by herself. So she has a fantastic group of volunteers back there that are regularly scheduled. But that is probably our biggest need right now, is simply having enough volunteers to run that place so it can continue on, because the goal and the dream is to actually have it so we can open it another day, and we're looking at Tuesdays, but we need to have our volunteer base in place to do that. What's really cool about our volunteers here is that they get enrolled into a program called Care Bucks. Thrift stores are popular. Okay. Whether it's an old grandma that has always used thrift stores, or a person that just is frugal with their money, or it's gotten to be a trend with the younger generations as well to go on a Saturday and just go thrifting. I got to say, we really do have a cool thrift store, not because I'm the executive director here. I'm not just saying that because of that, but it really is cool. You can go in there and get some clothes. You can get a Fitbit. I've seen those in there. We even have like household stuff. If you're looking for a vintage punch bowl set, We have 2. So just saying, you need a punch bowl set in your life. So it's very reasonable. But all of our volunteers, no matter what area they are in here at Foundations for Living, they get care bucks. Now, care bucks are a way for us to give back to them, where they can track their hours, and that earns them cash in or dollars in the thrift store. So they get a little card like you'd see at a hotel, key card or something like that, a credit card, and that's where they accumulate funds to use in the thrift store as a thank you for what they do. Now, volunteerism can be a scary thing. What's interesting to me is that I'm the pastor of a church. Okay, I've been a pastor for 18 years. And before that, I was a youth pastor for 9 years. And then before that, I grew up in the church and in Milwaukee. And it was a very cool thing. But one idea that really got to me every year was the thrust for missions trips. Okay, this is where kids and adults would go to Mexico, Argentina, Cambodia, Moldova, wherever the case may be. And they would leave and then come back super excited and can't wait for the next opportunity to go and serve. Now, when they served, and I can speak to the Assemblies of God because that's what I was raised in and that's who I'm affiliated with. They had missions teams, and then they had MAPS teams. MAPS teams were typically adults. Teens would be allowed to go on those, and they would just go and build stuff, build a new church, remodel a church, whatever the case may be. A parsonage was in disarray and they needed to repair it, whatever the case is. So they'd go to another country to do this and come back excited and can't wait for the next trip. Kids, teens, college-age people would typically go into other countries, and sometimes what's called stateside missions trips, where they'd go somewhere else in the United States, and they would do human videos. If you don't know what a human video is, look it up. You'll either enjoy it or you'll be like, oh, it's not me. Or they do puppet ministry, kids ministry. They would speak in front of a church of Argentinians, okay, with the help of an interpreter. And they'd come back and they'd be jazzed and excited and can't wait for the next trip. But what always struck me as curious are the people that would do this, and they would go after all these opportunities in other places when, in fact, there was a need right in their own backyard. Okay, if you were attending a church in Milwaukee and you went to another country, you need to realize that Milwaukee has a great need. And we find that even in rural Wisconsin and rural communities in general, there are great needs for people to say, I'm going to take that mission mindset that I was going to go over to Argentina with and still go. That's good. That's cool. You do some good things over there, but use it here locally. Because at a center like this, it takes volunteers. You have to be, and you might be uncomfortable working with homeless people. Step into our world and see what that's all about. You might be uncomfortable dealing with parents that are neglecting their home. You step in here and you'll start working with people like that. And what happens is your heart starts to grow. Your heart starts to open up to a new aspect of ministry, much like going to Moldova. Okay. You've never been there before. You don't know what the people are like. You don't know what the culture is like. And so it's uncomfortable. It can be uneasy at times, but you come back maybe like a day or two into it. You're thinking to yourself, what did I get myself into? By the third day, fourth day, you're thinking, I absolutely love this. By the time you get dropped off at the airport and you're on the airplane home, you're probably in tears because you miss it so much. The same thing can happen locally as well. Let me share with you a story. My wife, she's been a pastor's wife for 20 years. We just celebrated our 20th anniversary, and she went on overseas missions trips. We've done stateside missions trips as well, and they've been very beneficial. They've been very good. I have a dear friend that runs a homeless program out of Nashville, Tennessee, right under one of the bridges in Nashville. In fact, it's right near the intersection of Church Street and Gay Street. Okay, there's an actual intersection like that in Nashville. I have a picture of it. But we would go down there. But what we realized is we can go down there and help. But as a church, we're going to start a program similar to that in our own city. And we call it The Rock. We go out and serve once a month. We bring gently used clothing, fresh cooked meals, all of that stuff, brand new toiletries. But yes, I think 3 days ago, my wife was going through Wapaka downtown, and she saw an elderly lady it was like 100 degrees out, if not very close, going through the downtown area with a huge bag on her back and taking about 10 steps, setting it down, breathing hard, and wondering if she has enough energy to make it another 10 steps. Well, my wife, I've kind of rubbed off on her, and she stopped, did a U-turn. Noah, my little 6-year-old, was in the car, and stopped if she needed help and asked if she needed help. She did. And so this lady was very grateful. She got in the car, threw her bag in the back of the car, and asked Tracy right away, "Are you a Christian?" And I think that's so cool that when people ask that question, because it really opens the door for conversation. Well, long story short, this lady lives across the street from the church I pastor. Tracy dropped her off. She was so grateful, so thankful. And 2 days later, she showed up here at the center getting the rest of the supplies she needs. Is she a different type of person? Yeah, I think so. But then again, everyone's different from me. Everyone's different than you. And so Tracy came back and said, "I just met the sweetest lady. She would talk my ear off," and that is the case sometimes when you're dealing with single homeless people, because they have nobody else to talk to. So when you get to be in their world or help them out, they want to share everything about who they are. So you just let them talk. And Tracy did that. And she just talked on and on about how cool of an experience that was. And I just encouraged her to keep doing that kind of thing. Usually when kids aren't in my car, my own kids, if I see somebody that's walking, that's really struggling, I'll pick them up. I've taken, since I've started here, especially, I've taken drunks, addicts, trans people, all sorts of people in my vehicle, wherever they needed to go in town. Now, here's what's interesting about it is my wife's always had a heart for people. Okay. That's not a question. She's been to many different countries on missions trips. She's helped out with our stateside trips through our church. On and on it goes. But it was just a reminder saying how cool it is to do these kind of things. And so some of us, and I realize I'm getting kind of preachy with this message, but I'm really wanting to stress the importance of volunteers. Some of us may be going through the doldrums of summer right now. Maybe you have teens or older teens that are sitting around at home wondering what to do with their summer. Stop down here and visit with me, or visit with Michael. He's our assistant director. And let's talk about how you can get involved here at the center, because when you volunteer, let me just say this. When someone's in crisis mode, when somebody asks us to volunteer, it's never going to be at the right time. It just won't. There's always something else you could be doing. But when we're pondering, you're down in the dumps, the summer's dragging on, kids are getting on your nerves, you just need to get out of the house and do something that brings purpose to your life, volunteer. Okay. And like I said, we're here to meet with you. We're here to talk with you. We want to go over with you all the programs we have. And honestly, once we run our volunteer background check on, what we do, it's just standard that we do that. And 99% of the people are approved, then we want to get you involved. We want to get you going with some good projects here at Foundations for Living. We have everything from outdoor projects that need to get done to maybe you want to help in the thrift store. Maybe you want to help with front office stuff. We have multiple events coming up where we could use people in our parade. We're going to be in the Mano Rodeo Parade. We're going to be in the the Wapaka 4th of July Parade. We have an event coming up, and let me put it up on the screen here. It's called Foundations Fest. And this is going to happen right here on our property on Saturday, August 6th. And it runs from 11 a.m. till 4 p.m. The Refinery Church, which is a new church launching in Waiawega, Wisconsin, is going to provide the music. And then the church I pastor is going to provide the meat for the cookout. And there's going to be a bounce house for kids. And there's also going to be a table for school supplies to be given out for parents that might need a little extra help this time of year. So you can go to our website, fflwapaka.org, and find out more information about that, or visit us on our Facebook page. You'll find things about that information. We do have a quarterly newsletter that goes out as well. but there are a lot of opportunities to serve. What we do here, we have 5 staff members. All the rest are volunteers that make this happen. Is it going to be a smooth process? Does it mean that when you come in, everything flows smoothly? No. You go into any nonprofit, any church, there's always going to be hiccups along the way. And, we're trying to figure out good ways to do things, how to tweak something. And so that's the joy of working together as a team in order to do the work of a crisis center like Foundations for Living. Or if you're watching from out of the city or out of the state, do a simple Google search and you'll find other places that you can get involved in or volunteer as well. It really comes down to a verse in Matthew 25:40. For those of you that are steeped in the Bible, you know your stories. It comes from the parable of the sheep and goats. And it says in Matthew 25:40, the king will reply, truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. And it really comes down to that if we realize what we're doing, why we're doing it, and what long-term repercussions our service can have, I think more of us would buy into it and get out and volunteer. Let me share with you one last story before we sign off. So my grandma, her name was Dorothy, she lived through the Great Depression, and she raised all of her kids and didn't have a whole lot to live on because during World War II, her husband, my grandpa that I never met, he died when my mom was just a little girl. He worked in a munitions plant preparing ammunition for World War II. And an explosion happened in the plant and he died as a result of it. So my grandma was left raising all these kids up in Linden Station, Wisconsin, near the Wisconsin Dells. Ultimately, her sister, who had a house in Milwaukee, moved her and the family down there to live with her. They were struggling one Thanksgiving. Okay, they didn't have anything. They told the kids we're probably not going to have a whole lot, so it's just going to be another day. Well, middle of the day, the Salvation Army came knocking on their door. Didn't even stick around to see who would answer the door. Just was tipped off that this person needs help, my grandma. And my grandma Dorothy opened the door, and there sat a box with a turkey ready to go in the oven. All of the additional food, pies, cranberry sauce, everything sitting there. And to my mom's dying day, she always talked about how much she loved the Salvation Army and would get involved or drop money in the bucket every time she saw them. That's a really cool thing. And that's what I'm saying is people don't forget our volunteer efforts. And so if you're thinking about volunteering, if you're looking to add purpose to your life, if you're just going through the summer boredom, or you have kids that you would want to bring with as well, as long as there's an adult here, we can put them to work as well. And so again, visit fflwapaka.org. There's a volunteer form right on our website. We have a lot of opportunities. Stop in, tell Val, our office manager, you want to talk to Bob, and I will sit down with you. We'll get some coffee going and just talk about where you can get involved, what you can do in order to serve people in our own community, which is Wapaka and the greater Wapaka area. So, well, thanks for watching. And if you're watching this on the rebroadcast, certainly feel free to comment. I will address those comments right away. And look forward to being with you next Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. And we're going to talk about a different topic and want as many people as they can to tune in. And again, thoughts, comments, feel free to post even when we're live and we'll address them. So visit fflwapaka.org, or if you want, you can certainly feel free to visit us. The address is 1421 Churchill Street. Give us a call at 942-2725, area code 715. And I would love to meet you. Our staff would love to meet you. Hope you have a great weekend. Take care.